You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them. Do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my two golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Banks, where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode down in Atoka, Oklahoma today, the home of Lane Frost and the home of Reba McIntyre as well. Just had Reba's for lunch. It was wonderful. If you haven't made the trip down here, it's worth coming down here. But my guest today is Stetson Frost from the Lane Frost brand. And we connected over going to the PBR together, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's not the first time you've ever been to one.
I've been to a few.
It was the first time I've been to one, and I was just wildly surprised by how intense it is. But it was awesome. I encourage everyone to go see it at least once. I had a great time. And one thing that my current boss said was that it keeps you entertained the whole time. Mm-hmm. Right? There's no lulls. There's always something, and that's kind of rare in sport today. And it's the fastest growing sport at the moment. So it's,
2-3 hours go by and it feels like 20 minutes.
It's amazing. So you guys have the brand and obviously the history of Lane Frost to kind of go on. And for me, I found out about it when I came here and I saw the movie. I came to America and a friend of mine was like, "You got to watch this 8 Seconds movie." I was like, "Oh, what is this all about?" And learned a little bit about that, and then obviously just the history, and then being at the rodeo on the Friday, one of the bull riders had a great ride, got off, jumped on the stage, and did the wave.
Oh right? Yeah,
which was really cool.
Cassio. He's a huge Lane Frost fan,
which was amazing. And so obviously that's family history for you. You have huge ties to it, and the brand and the name speaks so much across not just bull riding but Oklahoma as well.
Yes.
Let's start, I guess. What are your kind of earliest memories of, the family and the stories and everyone who was around you, because obviously you were very young when Lane passed. Mm-hmm. And it's coming up on 35 years?
35 years, 30th of this month.
Tell me a little bit about that. What comes to mind when you think of family history, Lane Frost, and who he was to you?
Man, it's super cool. I mean, to be in the same family as Lane Frost, it's really awesome. And, just the hard work and the work ethic that the Frost family has, it's always inspired me to push myself even more being a part of this. So my fondest memories are, just hanging out at my grandparents' place, hearing stories, and then obviously seeing all Lane's memorabilia, all the buckles, and even my grandpa Clyde, he was in the 5 out of the first 6 NFRs riding broncs. So there's just a lot of rich rodeo history, and it's always just been cool to hear. There's always a story. People don't realize the rodeo community has so many stories.
Get on, like, are you thinking from a young age, or does that happen and you're the young one and it's like, nope?
No, I never got on. I was always on the hefty side. When I graduated high school, I was almost 300 pounds. I played a lot of football, but that was really it. No, I never got into rodeo, being a part of the sport as an athlete.
Football from a young age. Did you grow up in this area as well, or from Atoka?
Yeah, born and raised. Went to high school here. Moved out to McAllister in my right after I graduated. Went to college at Eastern, which is in Wilburton. Come back home probably 5 years later, and met my wife. She's from here. Her parents own a Mexican restaurant here, and she was actually off at OU, just finished, and was working on her hygiene. I fell in love with her, so I chased her to the city. I moved to the city with her for 3 years, and we ended up back here. So yeah.
It's fun living out here, I'm sure.
It is. We enjoy it.
We were saying on the way down, it's a whole different pace of life, but you're not missing anything.
No.
People live in the city and that's all they know, and that's fine. But you come out here, rolling green hills and trees. Yeah. It's hard to beat.
It's awesome, man. It's pretty peaceful. It's quiet. Things that go on in the world, they don't hit us here. It's too destitute, I guess.
Yeah.
And we lived in the city. My wife went to college at OU, and then she went to hygiene at Rose there in Del City. And it was funny, while we lived there, now when we're in our rural area where we live, you go to the city and you're going to go hit a movie, you're going to go to the mall, you're going to do this. When you live there, you don't do any of it because it's so convenient. You just don't do it. So it kind of was an epiphany. It's like, wow, when you don't live there, you kind of take it for granted when you're there. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So you went to this big city a couple of weeks ago to watch the bull riding.
Yeah.
Did you spend the whole weekend up there?
No, we drove up. We have 3 little kids. Mm-hmm. We have a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1.5. So we just drove up Sunday for the last perf, watched it, and came home. We want to support our rookies that are involved, and then Nathan Harp, one of the bullfighters, he's one of our guys. So it's just we don't get to see our guys in action very often, so we made the trip.
Yeah. So I met Nathan through a mutual friend, a guy named Stephen, who owns Stephen Cook, who owns a few feed stores in Tull.
Okay.
They're from Tull. They went to high school together, and I met him last year. And then I was there on Friday, and I look out there, and they introduced the Border Patrol guys, and they said, Nathan, I'm looking through my phone. I'm like, I got his number. I've met this guy before, right? And so I texted him, not expecting him to answer. And then I guess in the kind of intermission or whatever, he texted me, he's like, oh, I'll come out and say hi. So he came out and said hi.
Very cool.
And, I was just like, you're insane. Bull riders are a little different anyway, but when the bull's done and you've got to jump in there with 2 other guys to kind of get the attention of that thing, and I asked him, like, what's it like to be in your hometown doing it? And he goes, it's awesome, but this is like the 100th one I've done already this year. Like, we're on the road a lot.
Yeah.
But it's most people don't think of that.
No.
Those guys, right?
No, those guys are fearless.
Yeah.
For them to jump in, and if you notice, every time they get off a bull, someone is on the head first thing. Mm-hmm. And that's the one place you don't want to be, is on the head of a bull. And it's amazing to me how those guys, they're fearless. They just jump in there. Like, if I was going to hire a bodyguard, I would hire a bullfighter.
Yeah.
There ain't a man on earth bigger than a bull, and these guys jump right in front of them.
It's crazy. And I was speaking to the guy who was roping, and he's 69 years old.
Yeah.
He's loving doing it.
Yeah, the pickup man.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And, sometimes the bull's chasing him.
Yep.
Which is, it's...
And back to Harp, you said you've met him, so you see he's a very meek, very religious man.
Uh-huh.
And he goes out there and does what he does. That's what blows my mind. You think, oh, these guys are it. He's the chillest, just wants to hang out with his wife and very religious, and then boom, he turns it on when he needs to.
Yeah, it's impressive, and it's a skill that not very many people have, and a job that not very many people want to do. But like I said, he's clearly good at it and loves what he does. And also, he's one of your brand ambassadors.
Yeah, we've been with him. I want to say, we're going on 3-4 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great guy. We're honored to have him on the team.
Yeah. And you mentioned you've got a couple of riders too.
Yeah. So in the PBR, we got Hagen Braswell. He's a rookie this year on the Oklahoma Wildcatters. And then mostly PRCA, but Josh is actually on the Wildcatters as well. We got Josh Frost, my cousin. Mm-hmm. He's sitting number 1 in the world in PRCA. And then we have Trey Holston, which he just found out he broke 2 parts in his lower back. So he's out probably for the rest of the year. And then we have Matt Merritt, barrel man, funny man in the PRCA. Then we have Tucker McWilliams, another bullfighter. Yeah. And that's just kind of our rodeo side. Mm-hmm. We have several other young guys too that aren't really in one of the major organizations yet, but we have guys in the NFL, we have guys in Supercross, we have bands we work with, so we kind of have broadened the spectrum on who we work with.
Yeah, that's the great thing, like, about the name, right? About the brand, and having such a famous figure and such a tragedy around the story, dying at 25, and having the movie come out, and so tell me a little bit about how your story weaves into the brand and then how this takes off, because this has been going 8-9 years.
Yeah, we're eclipsed in I think September will be 9. I'll have to look, but 9. We're getting close to 10. So I've always been a ball cap guy, and I always wanted to do something to honor Lane. And I was in Oklahoma City when my wife was in hygiene school, and I just, like I said, I moved up there on a whim. I loved her, and I was like, we're gonna have to make this work. So I moved. I got a job screen printing shirts. And they had a little lady that embroidered hats. This was in El Reno, and there was a lady that embroidered hats for them back in Oklahoma City. So I bought some blank hats and took them to her and had a few things put on. Obviously, it was kind of rough and raw back then. We didn't really know where we were going with it. But when I started it, it was this wasn't about money. This was a passion for my uncle, and it just snowballed. Basically what happened was I got my grandmother and my aunt's blessing. Hey, here's what I'm wanting to do. Started rolling with it, made some hats. I thought a few friends would want them. I didn't think much else. And then the biggest caveat that kind of changed everything, we got Lane's hat back. So Jim Sharp had Lane's last ride hat in a box in his attic, and he didn't know it.
Wow.
It just, been years, just that moment got discombobulated. Everybody was in a hurry. He grabbed Lane's stuff for him. Somehow got back to the house, got put in an attic, and I think that was at year, we're at 35, so 25.
Yeah,
I think right around there. We got Lane's hat in the mail. Still had red dirt on it from Cheyenne Arena.
Oh,
I mean, it was ominous. We opened the box and we're all goosebumps. And I posted a picture of that, and it just went nuts. Sold out of everything. Gained 50,000 followers in like 20 minutes. I mean, one of those weird, it never happens moments, Yeah. And that's when I was like, okay, so now I got to take this serious. And, it's one of those deals. You go through the process, you learn, you work with accounts, you move forward, you find better people that fit what you're doing. And now we're on this, it's not even a growth thing. We're just on a trajectory. Like, it's growing consistently, but now we're expanding on that. We're actually going to launch, I haven't even said this yet, we're actually going to launch Cowboy Hustle. Okay. So we're incorporating that into LF, and it's going to be kind of a brand that's inserted into LF, and it's going to kind of have its own unique vibe and different ideas and logos and stuff. So we're kind of excited about that, just to kind of put the brand out there even broader, because right now we're very limited to. People think we're just a bull riding brand. And honestly, our brand, I'm more about the message than about what Lane did. Lane worked hard, and Lane cared about people. And those are two things that no matter what you do in life, they'll benefit you. So that's been kind of our message. And we actually have a Bible fund. So Grandma Elsie's been giving away Bibles for years. And it's always been funded. There's a gentleman that used to run a bunch of car dealerships in Texas, and he cuts her a check every year to pay for X amount of Bibles. So what we have done in the past couple of years, we have set it up to where now you can buy single Bibles on the website, and all you pay is shipping. Bible's free. We sell cases at cost to churches. It's $88 for 44 Bibles. But that's low key. My big message is we gave away, I think, just last quarter. No, in 90 days, when I looked at it about a month ago, I think we'd given away 2,100 Bibles in 90 days. Wow. So I thought that was a really cool number.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the message is, work hard and you can have things. Perseverance pays off. You just gotta dig deep. But Lane is the vehicle. Lane's story, Lane, what he went through, about dying on the biggest stage, being the world champion, being as charismatic as he is. He was a unique specimen, honestly, because he had a lot of positive attributes that most people have one or two, but this guy had a lot. The documentary, I hope you see it one day. Right now, we actually just showed it in Cheyenne. It's about to air again. we're hoping on a massive network. We got some meetings. That's the plan. But that story, that changes the course, I feel like, of people's perception of Lane. That humanizes him. Mm-hmm. You see his falls, you see his failures, and I think that's important. But the cool part about this story is there's a fall and there's a rise. Mm. You know, most people, when someone, you know, fails at something, they just beat them down the rest of their lives. They're stuck in that. But there's a rekindle, and they bring God into the picture, and things change. And, you know, Lane's in heaven now due to circumstances. And now we have this Bible ministry, and we have the brand. And so, honestly, I'm just blessed to do what I get to do. Yeah. That's how I look at what I get.
Yeah. Take me back to that conversation with your grandmother and everybody about doing this.
Yeah. So I just, I had some of my hats, and I brought them in and just kind of told them, you know, what I was wanting to do. I don't know what this is going to do. I just, you know, I want some feedback, and, you know, I want to make sure you are okay with it. Went back and forth, had a good conversation, and they're like, yeah. And then it just, like I said, once we got that hat back, posted that picture, everything changed.
Yeah. How did you get the hat? Like, how does it come about?
So I think I'll have to ask Grandma to recall the story, but I think, I don't know if they're going through an attic or what. I'd love to have Jim tell his story on this, honestly. But I think they just, this isn't mine. This one's Lane's, and just shipped it. Called Clyde and Elsie and said, hey, we have Lane's hat. Wow. And they just shipped it back to him, you know.
You guys know it was coming?
We knew we were getting it shipped to us, but, you know, you don't think about opening the box and the feelings and the dirt, and you don't think about any of that. Yeah. And then it happens, and I mean, that's one of the most ominous moments I'd ever had in my life, was opening that hat box. Yeah. Yeah.
Where's the hat now? So
the hat's actually, my aunt has a Western wear store in town called Frost Ranch Wear, and it's actually displayed in there.
Okay. Yeah, that's, I mean, so awesome to have it, right? I mean, and also for him to realize that this isn't mine. It could have just been a box and be sat there forever. Yep. And then it just gets lost.
Mm-hmm. And that's where, you know, being admirable and having good character comes into play, you know.
Back to about being a cowboy, right?
Yep.
Like all the values that you talk about, Western values. I mean,
it's a real thing, you know. And there's, you know, you have to, nowadays you need paperwork if you're doing projects and stuff. You need paper trails and lawyers involved. It's sad you have to do that these days, but that's just how the world works. But no, the code is, you know, I'm going to do my part and I expect you to do yours. Mm-hmm. You know, that's a big part of it, and people miss that.
Yeah. So you get the blessing, the hat's, you know, it happens, then it catches wildfire when you post, you know, his hat, and people start, you know, basically taking everything off the shelves, and you gain 50,000 followers and think, this is a legit thing now.
Yeah. And again, at that point, I didn't really know, I didn't know this was going to happen. So we rocked along. I was actually filling orders out of my garage next door that's 22 feet by 30 feet. I ran the whole business out of there for 4 years. It was rough. You know, I had to finally hire some people, just I needed some help. So, you know, they had to suffer through that tiny space. And then about 2.5 years ago, I was like, you know what? I look at it kind of like a koi fish. They can only grow as big as their environment. So my environment was tiny. We were growing, but I had maxed out my environment to the point I'd be out on my porch at 3 a.m, narrowing down hat boxes so I could get them into the building. Yeah. You know, it don't sound like a lot, but, you know, you get 1,000 hats in and you can get 10 boxes out of the building, you made some space. So just those little things, and now we don't have to worry about that. You know, we have the space for the volume. We can handle getting in things early. We were having to time everything out so precise because we had no space. So being able to be in a true facility now has been a blessing.
Yeah, it's a great space, and obviously we're in your office, and there's a lot of stories in this office, not just for you and the family, but you're a huge collector of memorabilia as well.
Yes, sir.
And obviously with the name and the family name, I'm sure you've had some great opportunities to meet some great people, and, you know, people who may have never met your uncle but have stories of, you know, the courage or what's led them to do, or by watching the movie it's inspired them to do something. I mean, possibilities are endless.
The networking with it has been really awesome. It's been a blessing. Like, you know, JB, you know, you got to meet him at the event, and he said it in the documentary when they interviewed him, but he accounts his whole career to Lane Frost and his Bull Talk video, just his instructional video. So I mean, it's touched a lot of people. You know, Cody Johnson's a big fan. I got Cody Jinks record there on the wall. Cody Jinks is a fan of Lane's, and Lane Johnson, starting offensive tackle for the Eagles. There's his jersey on the wall. He's named after Lane.
Yeah, he played at OU, right?
Played at OU. Yeah. He's going to probably go down as one of the greatest offensive linemen in NFL history. So
yeah. You talk about Lane Johnson, and, you know, someone who's going to go down as potentially one of the greatest offensive linemen of all time, played at OU at the Eagles, and he's saying personal stories, and he's hearing from his family that have named him after your uncle. The impact that has can't help but give you chills, right? And but also, what you have to live up to too with the family name. You've got a lot of weight to carry as well, and that adds its own sort of pressure.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always just tried to be tried and true. Do the right thing. It's always been the motto, and that's what we try to stay away from. Alcohol, we try to stay away from anything real raunchy or anything. There's places for that, but not with this. Lane Frost is he's more than a brand. He's more than a man. He's a lot to a lot of people. Especially with his story, and in the Bible. It's God's Bible. It's not Lane's Bible. But the interesting part to that, you'll be surprised how many people will pick up a Bible with a bull rider on it that they wouldn't normally have picked up a Bible at all. So that's if it takes a catalyst like Lane to lead people to Jesus, we'll take it.
Yeah, like you mentioned earlier, it's bigger than just bull riding, right? And bigger than there's a huge message here, and it goes back to giving out Bibles or something that's been happening in your family for a long time. This is just a vehicle to help expand that.
Yes.
And thanks to that gentleman in Texas who's writing checks to you every year too, that helps a lot.
Yes. He donates for the Bibles, and that's what even Grandma. She's like, "What are you going to do when I pass?" I said, "Well, I don't feel right taking money because the brand does well, so I will just buy the Bibles every year and we'll just give them out continuously." I want to keep that. That's Elsie's legacy, is the Bibles. That's my grandmother's very passionate about the Bibles. So.
Yeah. So coming up on 8-9 years of the brand, and like I said, it started as hats and it's just expanded. Take me through that time. How's that been? Like, obviously you've got T-shirts now and other things as well, and you got the Cowboy Hustle thing coming. What's it like being a business owner of such an important brand to not only the bull riding community but the larger community of people who want to work hard and have integrity as well?
Man, it's fun. I like what I do. I tell people I'm a serial entrepreneur. I can't stop. So for years I always had a day job growing up, and I felt empty. I'd max out a position, and this isn't, there's nowhere else to go here. I don't want to go into management. I kind of want my own thing. And like I said, this all kind of snowballed to happen. And then once it did, I'm like, okay, I got to put my big boy pants and figure out how to navigate this. I'll be honest, it's been hard. Now it's coasting a little better, but being that serial entrepreneur, now I've got 4 businesses. We've got Airbnb. I'm GC in my own house right now. I recommend don't do that. Don't ever do that. But I bit the bullet, and I'm doing that right now. But it just it's a lot of work. I work 60 to 90 hours a week, and that's a good one. If there's no hiccups. I don't get to turn it off. I'm in here sometimes 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I'm in here on Saturdays, and now I take downtime for my kids and stuff and my family. That's most important. I'll put everything down and show up at a T-ball game or whatever. I mean, that's the goal here is to be a family man, and that's what this business has freed me up to do. But is it just you flip a switch and make it happen? No, there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of ordering going on. There's a lot of, I still got to make sure the product gets here. Just because we ordered it don't mean it gets here, So there's a lot of that. Me personally, I consider myself the janitor. I sweep, I take out the trash when needed, and I make sure everything gets put away. I'm the behind the scenes guy. Yeah. Everybody asks what I do. I lurk in the shadows. I don't want my name out there or nothing. I just want to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Yeah. It sounds like, what we talked a little bit about earlier about your ambassadors. It sounds like that's kind of a core part of the business too, is just helping get it out there. And obviously you guys have a huge social media following. You mentioned gaining 50,000 followers in a day, basically. Now you're at 400 and something on Instagram, and I'm sure it's, hundreds of thousands of other places as well. That is obviously a huge driver for business, right? Yes. Social media and the branding and the content, and it's kind of simple and easy to reach so many people that way.
Yes.
But you clearly are focused on the ambassador and the people side of things by having core ambassadors. I'd love to hear you talk about your ambassadors and how you select them and how that's come about and how that's also helped grow your business.
So on the ambassador side, it's credentials are great on the rodeo side, but at the end of the day, we look at character. There's a lot of guys out there that probably be, a great ambassador because how famous they are or, how well they do. But what they're doing in the evenings, how they're treating people. Those are just important to me as gold buckles. So we're very selective. We've had to kick to the curb because they've done some things we didn't approve of. We don't keep our thumb on them or nothing, but we try to. If you get someone with character from the get go, you don't have to babysit them. They know what they're supposed to do and they do their job. But the ambassador thing's been fun. We get to see these kids grow up. We've dealt with some of our athletes now that are 18, 19 years old that were 12 when we started working with them. So that's really cool, to see that. And then our adult guys that, we've been with them since they were grown. It's just cool to go back and forth. Matt Merritt called me a while ago. He's in Cheyenne getting ready to be the funny man for the PBR tonight. It's cool to visit with these guys. And, I come in here sometimes by myself and I kind of pinch myself. I'm like, how did this happen? Like, seriously. This was just one big snowball. I'll take it, but it's just like, whoa. And the relationships, but the ambassadorship's been fun. One, longevity. We like to. It's almost like a marriage. When we work with somebody, we want to keep them as long as they want to be here. We don't want to do, that didn't fruition as fast as we want to. We're kicking the curb. No, we ride them out. We try to work with them and groom them. And big shout out to honestly the PBR and even Cavender's here recently. They've been hosting classes teaching these guys how to network, how to market, how to promote themselves, because a lot of them don't know any of it. The hard part nowadays, not only do you have to go perform, but then you have to treat yourself like a business on the back end with social media and stuff. Because I've seen guys that can't cover a bull, but they got a massive following. Yeah. So they're doing something right, but they're not focusing on the right thing. So those guys that have massive followings and they're winning the buckles, those guys are dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. It's you got to be trained in both, right? Yep. And like you said, the best at it, can turn that switch, and once they're in the shoot, when they're ready to go, it's not about your social media followers at that point, right?
Well, and you got to live two lives. They got to live outside the arena. They got to be a bull rider, and the endorsements are what pays the bills. Mm-hmm. You're not guaranteed you're going to ride that bull, but if you got a guaranteed endorsement, you're going to buck off. A good riding percentage is 60. So look at baseball. A good hitting percentage is 300. So that's 30%. So people talk about how it's hit and miss, and this is there's few guys in bull riding that are elite. There's few guys making money. Rest of them are just skating by, hoping one day there's a payoff.
Yeah. We were watching the documentary last night that's on Netflix, and they don't do exactly what you just said. They don't do this for money.
No, you gotta love it,
which is nuts, right? Because you'd think, and I'm sat there watching in the arena thinking, there's no amount of money you could pay me to jump on one of those things, and these guys are just doing it because they absolutely. Case Hit said he's like, I absolutely love what I do. Yeah,
you have to. Like Nathan Hart, we'll go to Bullfighter. I don't know what they make, but let's say they make 80, 90,000. That's what a UPS driver makes. Yeah. He's home every night. He's not getting ran over by an animal. He's on the fly to 48 states a year and be gone every weekend. So, you got to be passionate about that, because if you measure it up to another job, you're insane to do what you do. So you have to love it.
Yeah. I wonder how the health benefits work out.
Yeah.
How's your health insurance?
I don't know what an insurance premium is on an athlete like that.
Yeah. You mentioned you're a serial entrepreneur. You mentioned you have an Airbnb. Tell me a little bit about that side of things and how you got everything going, and then we can talk about the future plan for the brand.
So we've got LF, but I actually got a brand new brand that's completely separate, has nothing to do with it. It's called Western Hustle.
Okay.
And then I got the Airbnbs, and then I bought 11 acres just up the road here, potentially going to do a development on it. There's not a lot of good rental properties around here, so we were thinking about doing something like that. And then the GC in the house, but the Airbnb's been fun. We built that house. I actually built it for a general manager here, and they were going to, I owner financed it for the 2 years he worked here, and he decided to do something else, which was fine. But then he decided he didn't want, they wanted to move. That's fine too. Mm-hmm. So I own the home, but I kind of inherited it back of, oh no, now this is back on my plate. So we're like, what are we going to do? My wife's always like, oh, it'd be fun to have an Airbnb. I said, well, there you go.
There it is.
So she turned into Airbnb. November will be 1 full year. Okay. It's done well. It's just, it's a lot more work than people, you see, passive. There ain't nothing passive about Airbnb. You got to clean it. You got to make sure somebody's cleaning it. And if they ain't there, you're cleaning it. Any hiccups. I got a guy there right now cutting down 3 trees that are dead, That's $2,400 right there. People are like, oh, it's passive. I'm like, I don't know how you must have not ever owned one. You're just talking about it, I guess.
Yeah.
But
So always busy then. Clearly.
Always busy. Yep.
Yeah. Back to the brand then. What's the vision for the future? Obviously, you want this thing to stand the test of time and be around and be a message as well. What's where are we headed?
Well, with the climate right now, we're honestly kind of sitting back and watching. Social media is a mess right now. Nothing's making sense on the algorithms. Marketing always tried and true, but with the growth and everything, I just want to keep giving the message of work hard. You can have things. We want to pump the Bibles, and obviously want to come up with some cool hats and shirts along the way. But the big message is Lane was 25.
Yeah.
People don't realize that, and they can't put it in a perspective. Where were you at when you were 25?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You weren't mentally ready for life. We're still figuring. I'm 37. I'm still figuring it out.
33. I'm still figuring it out.
So that's the beautiful part about Lane did all this in 25 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what blows my mind, and I have to remind people that a lot of times because they put you on this trajectory of like, oh, he was 25. I mean, Michael Jordan was doing things later in life. All these guys were doing things later in life. It wasn't that quick. So for him to accumulate all these accolades and do all these things and make such an impression on all these people in that little a time, it's I don't know how to say it, but no, the trajectory is growth, keeping engagement. We do a lot of donating and stuff, so it's not this brand isn't just for me and it isn't just for our employees. It's for everybody.
Yeah.
And we try to use our resources to benefit as best we can.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, when you look at all the people who have kind of been, well, some people look at it like they were taken from us, right? But you look at the impact they've had in such a short amount of time, and they've lived so much in such a short amount of time. Like you talk about Kobe Bryant and all the other greats who've gone on, music artists or whatever. Yeah, they were young, but look at what they did while they were here. And that's clearly, we're still talking about them, and they have a legacy already because they went after it and they were so good at what they did. Mm-hmm.
There's very rare human beings like that come around.
You mentioned kind of, you were 3, obviously when Lane passed. You don't really remember much. What's some of your favorite stories to be told though that you learned over the years?
Learned a lot more during the documentary process because we had a lot of people coming kind of out of the woodwork telling stories. One guy here, he would tell a story. They went to so Ardmore kind of had a buck out, I guess, every Friday or Saturday night back in the 80s. You take $5, you get on a bull. Every $5 is a bull if you want it. So Lane and 3 or 4 guys loaded up. They go to Ardmore, get on these bulls. I'm assuming it's at that Audie Murphy Coliseum, the old Coliseum's been there forever. And the story goes, Lane got on his bull, rode it. The other 3 guys got on their first one and just thumped them. They gave Lane all their money. So guy said, I think Lane got on like 20 bulls that night because they all took like $20 a piece, and they just kept giving him money to see how many he could ride. So I just thought that was always kind of a cool story. Yeah. And then another guy, again, another high school friend, Lane. So Lane wrestled in Utah. So family transplanted here in '74 from Utah. When Lane got into high school, they didn't have a wrestling program, and in Utah they did. So he gets this token. He's like, okay, there's no wrestling program. What do I do here? So Lane joined the football team and never showed up to a game. He'd go to practice. He'd go through all the motions, do everything for the work. When it was game night, he wouldn't show up. He'd be at a rodeo. So first game, I guess the coach is like calling for him or something to go in. He ain't even there. Yeah. So they have a sit down with him like later. It's like, hey, you're really good. And like, whereas he's like, well, I'm not going to come to the games. Just like, that was just never talked about. You know what I mean? He's showing up to practice. He's learned everything. I guess they forgot to ask him if you're actually going to show up and play. Because, who's going to go through all that and not show up on Friday night? So I thought that was a really cool, like, wow, the work ethic that guy had. Mm-hmm. No one takes a beating like that and don't want the glory, Yeah. So I thought that was a good one.
Does that work ethic come to him from parents, family?
I would say so.
Okay.
My dad, Lane's little brother, he's a very hard worker. My grandpa's a very hard worker. My aunt's a very hard worker. So all the children work, and that's something I've always been prideful of is how hard my family works, and I took that personal that I need to do it too.
Yeah, and then the legacy that you have for the family to instill in your kids too. You mentioned you got 3 young kids, and it's a lot different growing up in the world now than we did.
Big time.
Right, but if you can keep them out here and maintain that kind of, you don't grow up on a farm or a ranch or 11 acres without getting your hands dirty.
Oh yeah, no, we put them to work. You know, I make them work out every night. My son, you know, we finally bought him a little video game, so I'm like, okay, we're gonna play this game. 30 minutes for 1 hour of video games. Yeah. He's like, you serious? I'm like, I'm serious. He's 6, and I'm trying to create. I got 2 young boys, and I'm trying to make them men.
Yeah,
the world needs more men.
Yeah, especially at the moment with everything that's going on, which we could talk about that and bore people for a long time.
It's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast. Stick to scrolling social media and just stay, we don't need to get
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. How's that been then from the social media side? Because you guys are, you don't shy away from your beliefs.
No, we're very conservative. We're very Christian. Do I have to like what the conservative party's doing at all times? No, but I'm a conservative person. Mm-hmm. But no, we're very Christian. We put religion out there constantly. That's what with Cowboy Hustle, we're going to do a little more, like I said, deeper into how we feel versus, we need to keep it a certain way. But no, I haven't shied away from nothing in my life, and I don't plan on it.
We've talked about brand ambassadors, and you've got everything there. The documentary, which is coming out, right? Mm-hmm. And you said showed in Cheyenne. Tell me a little bit about the documentary. And why is it so different from the movie?
So with the documentary, we want to come from a different angle. We wanted that to be about the man Lane. The story there, who he was, his work ethic, his struggles, his trials, his tribulations, things of that nature. The biggest person we could bring in to speak on his behalf was Kelly, his widow. So we had talked to her, we got her involved, and then the interviews were just awesome. We had Lane Johnson on there, we had Cody Johnson, tons of famous bull riders through the years. You had Donnie Gay, J.B. Mooney, friends, family, talking about Lane. And it's cool because you're getting an inside look of how he ticked, kind of, versus the movie. The movie was there to sell tickets. They pushed. They wanted to push more of partying and things like that. My grandma had to fight tooth and nail to keep it as clean as it was. So there was that attribute, and Elsie fought for it to show when he got saved, and they weren't going to have that. So the movie only got to tell what Hollywood wanted Lane's story to be for the most part. Where this, we got to pull back all the layers and talk through Lane. Brad at Tough Draw, the director, he did an amazing job on how he laid it out and everything. Hundreds of hours of interviews, and we had to narrow everything down to 2 hours, so that was a lot of work for him. But no, we're super excited about it. We've shown it small theater settings, I think 6 times now, 5 or 6 times, and then the goal is getting it national is our next step. We did our last one Saturday at Cheyenne. And then hopefully we got some movement on getting on a bigger scale because we get hit up constantly about people wanting to see it. Yeah. So, but no, the story there is just, it's Lane from birth to death. It's the whole story. It's broke down. It's, it's raw. It's, you'll cry, you'll laugh. Tough Hedeman says some funny stuff about Lane. It's a cool flick. Yeah. It's worth a watch. I'd put it up there with most of, you think of a documentary you enjoyed, this will be one of your favorites once it's over. And I am biased, but I know what the documentary is. I've seen it numerous times, and it's solid.
Great. I can't wait to see it. It's going to come out, and we can fire off some information in the show notes for that whenever it's out, and obviously help kind of show.
Yeah, and I was going to tell you too, if you ever want to do any giveaways or anything,
we can definitely talk about collaborations for sure. Talking of that, collaborations and local and stuff to just not just Atoka but Oklahoma in general. What's that been like for the brand? You working with anyone as well?
I mean, honestly, here locally, we're kind of a hidden gem. Okay. You're the first thing in Oklahoma that's actually reached out to us. It's kind of funny to me. I don't know how that stuff works. I don't know if you got to sell yourself or what, but we're a small business that does really well in Southeast Oklahoma, and you're the first Oklahoma anything that's reached out wanting to do something with us. So kudos to you, man. I appreciate that.
That's awesome. Thank you for having us.
But talking about collaborations, like American Bonfire Sunglass Company, really popular. We have our 5 Lane Frost Edition pairs. We have a collaboration with them. We do some things here and there with some other brands and stuff, but it's usually a one shot where we have a full on our cologne. We've had the #1 cologne in all Western Wear stores nationwide 4 years running, and I have a partner on it. It's a collaborative deal. Guy's really good at what he does. And that's the same thing with ball caps. I mean, we've been the #1 ball caps in Western Wear stores again for several years now.
What about on the school side? Are you doing anything with OU or Oklahoma State?
So actually, you say that. So Oklahoma State, it's an agriculture school, that fits our demographic better. Honestly, I'm born and raised OU football fan. Adrian Peterson signed helmet. I mean, huge fan my whole life. My grandpa's diehard. Still OU football fan. But OSU, man, they made me a believer. They wined and dined us. They let us on every field, let us meet every coach. They sold us well. It was a cool day. And we were actually the main sponsor of the Oklahoma State rodeo program. We actually have an NIL deal with the school that's about to launch where we're making Pistol Pete and OSU hats. And me and David Taylor, the new head wrestling coach, have been kind of going back and forth. We're going to have a sit-down meeting soon. I'd like to be a sponsor of the wrestling program.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because the legend, John Smith, just retired, right?
Yeah, John just retired.
And I mean, some of his stories, and I've heard just the things that he used to do and get up and he'd work out when the Russians were working out for, whatever time in the morning or middle of the night, just because he knew he wanted to be up when they were up. And talk about the parallels with wrestling and kind of, bull riding as well, that mentality of like that kind of price.
The elite are elite for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not a trick. There's no magic pill. The guy that's elite's outworking you. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Coach Smith, we got to sit and visit with him when we initiated going down there. Great guy, loves to hunt, super down to earth. And he had a cool story. So him and Lane, in 1987, they were both world champions. He was in wrestling and Lane was in rodeo. Well, they had a dinner. The state of Oklahoma hosted a dinner for all the world champions that year. And he said him and Lane got to visit a while. So it was kind of cool that he had that moment with him. I'd have never known if I wouldn't ask Smith.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, mate, I appreciate you having us down here. You got an awesome spot here. Obviously, new building. You got a lot of things going on. You're building a new house and raising three kids and all the other things that are happening. The PBR is on a rocket ship and has been. And obviously, you've been in that scene for a long time and excited to see where the brand is going and aligning with not just PBR, but the guys and there's a bigger message here as well. And it's just the vehicle that you guys are kind of using to spread that message. And even just being down here with an hour, I can tell that like this is, it's not just about your family name, right? There's a lot more around this than because a lot of people would look at you and be like, oh, they're trying to profit off Lane's family name, right? Not one chance that's happening down here.
No, it's we make money and that's a result of hard work. Yeah. If you got a good product, people buy it. Yeah. But that's not what we're selling here. We're selling help. We're selling the idea of you can have things if you put yourself through hell. I mean, you got to work your butt off if you want things. And then giving away the Bibles, that's the icing on the cake for me.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Where do we send people to that are listening if they want more information? What's the best place to send them?
Yeah, so if you want to follow along with our journey on posting and stuff, and people are always like, oh, they got somebody running the social. I've ran the social my whole life. It's me. Those are pictures I post. Those are words I type. If you notice some stuff's misspelled because it's me. But if you go to lanefrost.com, that's our website. Lane Frost brand on Instagram. Lane Frost brand or Lane Frost Archives on Facebook. But we have several channels, so just hit us up and reach out.
Great, and keep an eye out for that documentary that's coming out soon.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, mate, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And for everyone listening, we'll catch you next episode. Cheers. Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my 2 pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my 2 golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Banks, where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.